evening, everybody. My name is Vicki Iozzi. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Citrus County, and I'm very happy to welcome our guest speaker this evening. And when I saw this article in the Chronicle, and it said, I am happy to meet with any local groups or residents to discuss these projects, I said, I want to get her right away. I want to catch her right away and get her to speak for us. So I'm very happy that you could be with us here tonight. And
my screen went out on me. Hold on. You can keep talking. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm back on.
I wanted to do an introduction. Let me just pull up. I had pulled up an introduction from, there we are. But Rebecca does not want to be introduced with all of the accomplishments that she has. So what I want to do is just show you, I took this right off the website. And if you want to read it, go to the BOCC website. You will see her experience.
They changed the controls on this. I'm not familiar with them.
You can go on the BOCC website for that. I want to welcome Rebecca. She has a job that I would never want to have.
Aw.
No, thank you. But she is going to speak to us tonight about 1 cent. And she has said that she will do a presentation, which I will pull up on here in a second. And then she will answer questions. So if you have questions, if you know how to raise your hand on Zoom, you can do that. Otherwise, you can ask questions and Rebecca will be glad to answer them, I am sure. So let me find your, there we are. I can pull up your
Feel much better.
slides and let you start.
Okay.
Well, good evening, and I just want to extend a thank you for inviting me to come on and speak to your group and answer some questions, and maybe we can learn a little from each other, and I can learn from you, you can learn from me. But you did ask me to just discuss tonight the local option sales tax. I went back and did a little research. I found where the last time it was put on the ballot for Citrus County was in 2012 and it failed. I know that it had been on there a few other times, but I went all the way back to 2004 and I couldn't find what other dates that it had been put on a general election ballot. So as you can see, the local option sales tax at a glance, I think you have the first screen up there. Mine's.
Can everybody see it?
Nope.
It says on sharing.
There you go.
Okay.
So it can be used for a wide range of capital infrastructure projects. What's put out here is public safety vehicles, acquiring parks or environmental land, engineering, design, and construction of any public facility, improving capacity and the condition of county roads, which would be your repaving. But, I wanted to expand a little bit on top of that because I think it gets lost when you try to just break it down so quickly like that. Think of it in terms of a 1 penny of sales tax, and I'll give you a reference point. When I was elected in 2010 to 2014, when I left office, 1 penny of sales tax in 2014 was equivalent to about $12 million. Today, it's about 26 million, and that's probably a little bit on the conservative side. Um, so when we think about 1 cent of sales tax and it's paid by not only our residents, but it's paid by everybody that passes through our county. And when we think about in terms of tourism, and we have 150 million visitors and the economic input that they put into our state, they would also be paying that 1 penny. And what they claim is that about 27% of the sales tax is generated by visitors. So that's kind of free money. It's people that are not living in our communities, they're not living in our state, and they are helping to subsidize the sales tax, not only at the state level, which is 6 cents, but on the local option sales tax side, which is most counties have 1 penny. Some have a little more, but most of them have one. Um, Counties they have to put it on the ballot, and it has to be approved by the voters, and it has to be a 50+1 by the voters to implement that, and it has to be on a general election cycle. So that means what Citrus County can do as commissioners and as the county, we can educate, but we cannot advocate. And that is part of the reason why others in our community, I know Mike Wright has said that he would like to be involved in this, and then the local chamber here would like to be there. We've asked them to kind of go out and do that advocating part and help educate the citizens and have some different groups that want to be involved and learn about what this could do. The sales tax is applied to transactions that are subject to the state tax, meaning food, medicine, and certain services are not subject to sales tax. And on a local option sales tax, the first $5,000 of it maxes out at the first 5,000 of any major purchase. So you're basically paying on the same thing that you would pay at the state, except for it does have the exemption that you can only levy the 1% on the first $5,000 of any major purchase. So that's basically telling you you're only going to pay $50 on any major purchase. And to put that into perspective, I think on one of your sheets there you have, if you go back to how much is a penny worth and what does it generate? Like I said, it's about 25 million. And when they calculate the population estimate of 166,000, that last number that you see on there, the per capita estimate, is telling us that what that 1 penny would be equivalent to, what it would cost the residents, would be about $112 additional.
I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense. And they've lost audio.
I think she froze. Are you with us, Rebecca?
Nope, she's not. This is the other part of Zoom. If you don't have a good grip on how to do it, or the people who are doing it for you, because that woman who's doing it, she is the controller. She's lost her at the moment, and they've changed an awful lot of things here, and I can't even get to my controls. This is the woman who's controlling it. And I'm putting it out there so that the speaker is closer so you can hear it better. See if I can get everybody up on the screen. This used to put everybody up. Show grid video. I'm not going to do it. I like this. I've always liked full screen for whoever's up there talking.
Well, I'm hoping we can get her back soon.
I'm used to doing these, but I'm used to having control when I don't. So I can go on, off, ask a question, put a hand up, that sort of thing, and I don't have that control with me. I'm gonna have to go play with it again. I changed it, which is normal. So
Basically, we're
While we're waiting for her to come back, and I'm assuming she's going to come
What?
back.
basically what you're talking about is like, for instance, it's a 1% sales tax.
you're gonna explain it to me now?
Yeah, like, I won't, yeah, because, no, I just.
Okay, would you mute?
I mean, why are we
on-
listening to her if you're gonna explain it to me?
Would you
I
mute
didn't ask
yourself
the question.
unless
I
you
was
want
talking
to
about the problem.
brainstorm? Who is it that is talking?
Donna Thomas.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm supposed to be on mute.
no, you're
It
not.
wasn't.
Okay, I will be in a second.
All right, while we're waiting for her, somebody else just left too. Let's try to brainstorm some questions so that we can ask her when she comes back. Please come back, Rebecca. I have a question. I want to know when my road is going to be paved. Because I would like to live long enough to see it happen. So that's my question. Who else has a question? And unmute yourself and I'll write it down and we'll make sure she gets it when she comes back.
Well, I would ask, let's say we do use it for roads, how would we decide which roads would get priority? Because
Mhm.
you want yours paved, but I want mine paved.
Well, I want to go before you. If you ride on my road, you have to.
But I think that's
you have to
everybody's
figure out.
question. Even if it's not our street, if we would decide to do this and use the money for roads, we all travel on certain roads that are just driving us crazy. So how would we decide? That's my question.
Okay, what other questions do we have?
How long would the sales tax last? Would
Okay,
it
she's
last for
back.
1 year, 5 years, 10 years?
Okay, you can mute yourself because Rebecca is back.
Sorry about that. I have no idea. My system just shut down and rebooted.
Oh gosh.
Maybe if we get this one penny, maybe we'll get a better system in downtown Inverness.
Okay, I have your slides back up.
Okay. So under the local sales tax options, there are actually 4 that can be used, which is the local government infrastructure surtax, an indigent care and trauma center surtax, a voter approved indigent care surtax, and an emergency fire and rescue service and facilities surtax. The one that we are looking to potentially put on the ballot would be the local government infrastructure surtax. And so many people would say, what revenue can be used, or what would you use this revenue for? And it would be the construction of new infrastructure like road capacity issues. For example, the last 7 miles of 491 up to 200. It could be the 4 laning of Cardinal. It could be Venable or a rock crusher, all the road capacity issues that we have, as far as it could be residential road resurfacing. When we have SCOP projects, those are typically 75% funded and we have to have a 25% match. Grant opportunities, many times we have to forego grant opportunities because you have to have a match for those. So those would be some of the things that we would look to implement on infrastructure. Reconstruction of existing infrastructure, improving existing infrastructure, infrastructure-related land improvements, the design and engineering cost, land acquisition. So, for public recreation or conservation, protection of natural resources, and certain housing projects. You can also do the purchase of vehicles for fire departments, EMS, police department. There's a whole host of variety of things that you can do with that. And as far as other public, public facilities and infrastructure, that would be fire stations, office facilities, animal shelters, sanitary sewer systems, solid waste sewer systems, drainage, water management control and facilities. So those are just a few of the examples. And what the time frame that's required in the milestones to get this accomplished was the BOCC had to first pass an ordinance, which we did, to trigger the voter referendum. And then at least 180 days prior to the election, we have to provide a copy of the ordinance to the Office of Program and Policy Analysis and the Government Accountability, which is called OPAGA. And then within 60 days of receipt, OPAGA will procure a CPA to conduct an independent performance audit of the program. And 60 days prior to the election, a performance audit has to be completed and then submitted to the supervisor of elections. And then 10 days, within 10 days of adoption, the county has to notify the Department of Revenue. And if it was approved by the voters, it would go into effect on January 1 of 2027. So those are just some of the milestones that have to take place in order to even get this on the ballot for the voters to vote on it. There are, I believe, 58 counties that don't option a local sales tax, but some of them do put like a half a penny or a penny on for their schools, which has nothing to do with the county. Our neighboring counties, Levy County has a local option sales tax that generates about 7 million. Marion County generates about 82 million, and Sumter generates about 28 million. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about? One of the things that I think sometimes gets lost in the equation is people think, oh, we would get $26 million a year, roughly. We do have to give a portion of that back to the two municipalities, being Inverness and Crystal River. What we would have to give Inverness, if out of the 24,622,000, what's currently out there, Crystal River would receive 2.100%, and Inverness would receive 4.723%. So they would get a small portion out of the sales tax. And I went on to look up to see how sales taxes rate across the country, and Florida ranks at 6.95%. We rank 28th out of all the states. So it goes from a low of 1.82% up to a high of 10.12%. And that's how we rank according to the Tax Foundation. So you can see we rank pretty favorably. And again, like I said earlier, a sales tax, including the local option sales tax, is paid by all. It's not just residents, but it's tourists and visitors. Everyone who uses our roads, facilities, and services would pay their fair share. The local 1% sales tax generates for each dollar spent. So that gives you an idea where how those monies would be generated. Let's see. And then we talk a little bit, I think, as we go through this process, how would projects be selected? I would anticipate that there would be some community involvement. Like I said earlier, Mike Raitt is interested in helping with this, and the local chamber, Don Taylor, who at one time was part of the economic development, he has kind of stepped forward and wants to kind of spearhead this. So he'll have a group of different individuals and workshops. And at the end of the slide here, you have another slide that tells about how to get involved. And we have Veronica's email on there. You can send an email to her, and then they're going to have a community engagement event kickoff in April, coming up here soon. So you'll be able to get involved that way. And I think I'm going to stop there and let you ask me questions.
Okay, while you disappeared, and thank goodness you reappeared, we started brainstorming some questions. And my first question, I don't know if you can answer, but my first question is, when is my road going to be paved?
Well, we do have what I don't know where you live. If you
I'm
do
in,
go
in
on
Pine Ridge.
in Pine Ridge, you
Yes.
can go onto the county website, and under there, there's each district, which you would live in District 3. You can look to see if your road is on there. We have made the largest investment in trying to resurface roads. And uh, I thought this might come up, so I pulled it up. What it costs to resurface a road on the if you're just milling and paving is about, I think, let me pull it up here real quick. I think it's about it's $173,098 per mile. That's just to mill and resurface. If we have to go to open grade, it's almost 340,000. And if we have to do full depth reclamation, it's 706,000. So we have over 1,800 miles of road in our county that have to be paved. We have over 100 different roads that are private roads. But just to keep up, that I just demonstrated the amount, 100 and some odd $1,000 just to mill and repave, 173,000. You can see we're trying to catch up. We're doing that, but we just also we're in the process of finishing up. We had a company come in, Mott McDonald. We're doing a survey of the roads. Before, it was very subjective because we used staff to go out and kind of do an analysis of the road from, worst to best, and front footage, and just kind of a calculation. This program is kind of cutting edge technology. They come in and they run, it's a vehicle and has equipment on the front, and they can measure that road. And what they can tell us is if there's a mile of road and maybe it ranks a 3, but there's one section of it that's really bad. We know that all goes into a system, and we can monitor that. If we go out and we repair just that section that's really bad and get it back to a level 3, we can maintain that road and keep it in good repair for a longer period of time and put our resources where they need to be, as opposed to coming in and trying to redo that whole road at that point. It's going to be, I think, very good for us. I'm excited about it because I think sometimes if you're just trying to do density, that's not really the application that we need to do either, because it's, worst to first and density. Places like Pine Ridge, you have acre to 5-acre lots out there, and you have some of the higher taxes, but your roads are suffering. So this program, I think, will get us where we need to go to do a better job with the dollars that we have to spend. And using the penny sales tax would really help get us over that hump to get us into paying, repaving these roads faster. It's It's unfortunate. We went through some, bad times with the downturn of the economy in '08, and uh, then, Duke was bought out, or Progress Energy was bought out. It became Duke. And back in 2012, when it was Progress Energy, that equated to about 45% of our tax base. And it's less than 15% of our tax base today. But as much as we talk about, revenue and taxes, excuse me, having a diversified revenue base is a good thing for our county. And that's what we're finally starting to see with some of the retail that's come in and the offset. It's really shifted to a residential tax burden versus having a diversified tax burden with some of the commercial and industrial. That's why it's so important to make some investments into economic development, like what we've done out at the Inverness Airport, trying to create an industrial park that can bring in higher wage jobs. And I don't know if you had an opportunity yesterday morning, we had a workshop with Metro Forecasting, because I've often been accused of being the person that likes to look, very long range planning. And I think that's where you need to be. I don't think we should take a very myopic look. Um, because the planning for these things take a very long time. I work a lot on transportation, and I can tell you if we had a shovel to put in the ground today to do the balance of 491, it would cost us $180 million to do 7 miles. And that's not all the cost. And the traditional way of doing that, that would have to go into the MPO work program. We'd have to plan for that, and we would have to come up with about 50% of that. And so if we had to come up with $90 million, that's a steep hill for us to climb. And then that road is also our responsibility to maintain. I've looked for some alternative, I've talked with FDOT. Sometimes you can do trade-offs, for one road for another with the state, but we just don't have that luxury here. We don't, 44 and 19 and 41 are our state roads. So we don't have like Pasco and sometimes Hernando County Line Road, they have a little bit of a leisure. Sometimes they can trade a road off for another and put it on a program, but that we can't get there.
Okay.
So we've got a lot of planning, but I think, with the program that we looked at yesterday, when they came in and they talked about the growth, we kind of know where we have to go, and we have some opportunities for some creative job industry. But we also, if we have those jobs and they are the higher wage jobs, we also want to make sure that those people live in our community, because the last thing we want them to do is to collect their paycheck and go live someplace else and spend their income in another county. And then we don't have the benefit of that.
Wow. Okay, another question was, how long would the sales tax last?
Typically you put a time frame on it. You can put, it used to be a much shorter time frame. A lot of times they used to do like 7 to 10 years because of inflation and the cost of projects now. And if you were going to bond it, the bonding company is going to look for a longer term so that they know you have a guaranteed debt payment service that will support that. So for instance, if we were talking about residential road resurfacing or bonding an animal shelter or bonding the capacity of a road, if you're thinking $100 million and you can pay $15 to $20 million of debt service with your collections each year off of that, it's no different than if you were going to go mortgage your, buy a home and have a mortgage. They want to know what your ability to pay is. So that bonding company is going to want to have a longer term. And I would say you're probably looking at a 20 to 25 year term to have that 1 cent sales tax.
Okay. Which roads would get priority? How would that be determined?
I can't tell you that. That's a crystal ball that I just don't have. I think that would be a board decision that we would have to collectively determine, and then using some of the newer technology, if you're talking about residential road resurfacing, if it's capacity issues, I would tell you, I think it's probably going to be 491, simply because you've had a development of regional impact that's been on the books for 30 years at Hampshire and 491, and they by rights can come in and develop 6,000 homes and 300 some odd thousand square feet of commercial. So you're going to have a lot of new infrastructure on 491, and it's also an evacuation route. So that probably just makes more sense, and we're working on some opportunities that could help alleviate our responsibility of that full boat of the cost of it, that 50% that it would cost us, generally speaking.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, isn't the gas tax collected for the roads? Don't we have a gas tax that's collected for the roads that has not been accounted for?
Nope, we very much account for the gas tax, and believe it or not, with fuel efficiencies in cars and the gas tax that's never been indexed, that amount has gone down. We collect less than $9 million a year in gas tax. And that's you'll give me 1 second here. I've got some. Let me see here. I knew you guys were going to try to trip me up. Kidding. Hang on here. I'll get you that information. And I can share some stuff with you too later on if you want, that you can send out to your group.
Okay.
And it breaks it down on the gas tax. So let's see. Goodness gracious, I can't see that. So let's go here. I can send you the list from the Office of Economic and Demographic Research on all fuel taxes that are charged in each Florida county. And Citrus County began levying the 9-cent fuel tax, which is 1 penny, and the second local option fuel tax, which was 5, on January 1 of 2006, and that sunsets December 31 of 2034. The second local option fuel tax levy of 5 cents per gallon on motor fuel, and for the 2024 total collections, that was $2,553,048. And we received 90.95% of the distribution, with the cities receiving the other 9.05%. Then there's the 9-cent fuel tax that includes a 1 cent per gallon on diesel fuel, which is levied in every county, regardless if the county decides to levy the 1 cent on motor fuel. And the county decided to levy the 1 cent on motor fuel in 2006. And during 24, the collections for that was $695,891. And the fuel sold in Citrus County in 24, approximately 13% of it was diesel fuel, and that would equate to approximately $90,465 coming in from diesel fuel, and the remaining $605,426 coming from the 1 cent motor fuel tax. And
where does it go? Where does it get spent? How does it get spent?
on the roads. That gets, we put it in, it can only be spent for either road resurfacing, road capacity. Like I said, on the collector roads where we stop, we're the last county in what we call District 7, which is you have districts within the FDOT for the most northern. And once you reach a population of 200,000, you're not eligible for those SCOP dollars anymore. So on all of our collector roads, they give us 75%, and we have to come up with the other 25% to match to collect to implement those.
So this is a lot more complicated than meets the eye.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
But I'll send you those charts and you can see for yourself where those come in.
Okay, we have another question. Has it already been determined that where the revenues will go toward road paving or some other revenues possibly going to support other projects like the animal shelter?
Nothing has been decided at this point. That's part of, the process of getting out and talking with the residents, finding out what it is that they would want, explaining the process. You could set percentages aside for certain things and some for others, and so you have a little bit for everything. That there's been no talk, no determination on how the monies would be spent at this point. We're in the very, very beginning stages.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
I have a question, and this relates to a bill that was mentioned yesterday regarding studying the property tax and possibly as a state going in another direction. I'm wondering if you could speak to that a little more fully, Rebecca, and explain what that could do, what it would mean, and is there much of a chance of it happening?
So I don't think, at least not this year. There was Senator Pasadomo from down in Naples came out today, and she just basically said they're putting the cart before the horse. They have not come back and talked to the counties to, ask them, because most of our revenue that we have, comes from ad valorem taxation. There's some bills out there that they want to expand exemptions. I can tell you, if you wanted to go onto Florida Tax Watch, you would see that Citrus County ranks probably in the bottom 25% for the lowest taxes out of 67 counties, but we rank in the top 25% on exemptions, giveaways. So, not saying that those people shouldn't have that, but what one person doesn't pay, another person does. And that's why I feel like sales tax is it's a more fair and transparent, because it's not only your residents, it's the people that's traveling through your county that's paying that sales tax. And I think you've probably heard me say it many times from the dais. I love fees for service because you know exactly what you're getting and what it's going for. And I think budget reform, I've been preaching this for years. We have got to have budget reform because there's no certainties on how this goes with the legislature. The legislature's really doing a job this year on preempting local governments. But and then the House Speaker today came out and said he would like to lower the state sales tax by 3/4 of a point. So honestly, it's still so early in the game. I think we're in our 4th week now. They didn't have committee hearings like they generally have weeks in advance. Their first session was a special session A, that immediately opened and closed, and they went to special session B, and then they closed, did that one, then they came back and had another special session. And so that all the preliminary work that typically goes into a session was bypassed, and they've been drinking through a fire hose trying to catch up. And I don't see the property tax. I don't think anything's going to happen with it this year, but I'm not telling you that it won't happen next year.
Okay, somebody asked what will not be taxed. And I had in my notes that you said food and medicine. will not be taxed?
Prescriptions are not taxed. Food is, let me phrase it this way, unprepared foods are not taxed. So if you're going out and you're buying a soda pop, that's taxed, but unprepared foods are not taxed.
Okay. Will hotel stays be taxed?
Yes, ma'am.
Someone says, what about Rock Crusher? We have a couple of thousand homes being built along with the town center, and we need 4 lanes.
I don't disagree. I think one of the other things that you've heard me advocate for is what I call corridor alignments. And the corridor alignments mean that if we go out and we start to get these alignments, and basically what you want to do is you want to get ahead of the growth before they go in. Most of these, we don't get the setbacks. We need 50 foot on each side for setbacks to get to 4 lanes. And what we don't want is we don't want somebody to go in and build, and then we have to either buy their business out, pay them top dollar, pay them for, you know, business loss, the whole 9 yards. You want to get ahead of that curve before those developments happen and get those alignments set aside and get them into your comp plan so you can save millions and millions of dollars on the back end. But we're going to need that on Cardinal. We're going to need it on Rock Crusher. You need Venable. You're going to need it on 495, 491.
Sue, I
That's
don't want
why
your
it's very,
job.
very, pardon me.
Sue, I don't want your job.
Well, it's important. When I look at transportation, I don't look at it just in a myopic look. I try to lay it out and say we know what developments are coming in, and then I want to look to see where are the doctor's offices, where are the schools, where's the shopping. I want to see what those roads traveled are and how we can look to shorten those trips to eliminate congestion so that we can do a better job in keeping people within areas and reducing that. The last thing I want to do, people have to kind of retrain, retool their line of thinking. We don't, it's like leave 15 minutes earlier. We've become a society of convenience, and so we want everything to be convenient for us. But there's a price tag to convenience. So, the more of those roads that we build and make 4 lanes, the more we have to be responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of them, which it's not just building it, it's the long-term cost of keeping them up.
I have another question. Will there ever be taxes on the roads used by electric vehicles? Florida has one of the highest percentage of electric vehicles, yet we're missing out on gas tax revenue. Electric vehicle owners tend to have higher incomes and can fully afford to and are willing to pay their share.
Well, that's something that the state legislature has to implement. I know at the Florida Association of Counties, we had a lot of discussion about that, but it's not been something that the legislature has been willing to take up at this point.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Don't be shy. This is your opportunity. Rosemary.
Comment from me. Rebecca, thank you. You've told us so much, and I'm sure a lot of us, our heads are swimming. And I know you mentioned there would be an education program, by Mike and some chamber members. And I think probably that is a good idea to inform the voters, but we at the league, we seem to like our little one pagers and trifolds and rat cards, anything that could put this into simple layman terms that everybody could understand, that if you didn't get the paper which a lot of people don't seem to be getting, how will they know? And so, yeah, I'm just thinking of how this message would get out and how to simplify it so that, you know, people who aren't necessarily paying a lot of attention as we are right now, those of us who are here tonight, how will they get that message? And how, you know,
Again, like I said, we are in the very infancy stages of creating all of this. You know, we basically just approved this at the board level, and not this past meeting, but the meeting prior to that 2 weeks ago was then agreed that the chamber would have a community citizens driven type informational component to it. So we're just getting started, getting it launched, but this is exactly the reason these type venues tonight are good, because that's great feedback to go back and share with them and say, you know, we need to put some information out, get things up on our website that talk about it as much as we're allowed to. But you're right, and I have seen what other counties have done. They're doing it more from a standpoint of what they may be reauthorizing what they've had in the past as opposed to starting something new, but there's still that information is out there, and it's very good and it's concise, and I think it's exactly what you're asking for, and I think we can do that and get it out. It could be on our county website. We could get it out into some of the neighborhoods and or different organizations, and it would be a good tool for everybody to understand. It's a complicated, difficult subject matter.
And then
But
you
you
have
have to.
people who just don't want taxes raised, no matter what.
But the idea really is behind this, we'll never catch up. And you know, I don't like property taxes either. I mean, they're necessary. You know, if you think about property taxes this year, we collected 104 in ad valorem. And out of 104 million, 56 million of that goes to fund the property or the constitutional officers. So 40 million of it goes straight to the sheriff, and then you've got your other constitutionals. And then I think it's roughly 32, 33 million are unfunded state mandates. So it does, it's not like we're collecting and sitting on a big pot of money to do things when you comparatively look at what we have to take care of.
I have one other question. Are impact fees charged to the builders? What's their responsibility for adding infrastructure? For example, hospitals and schools for someone building 2,000, 6,000 homes.
Yes, you do have impact fees, and so our impact fees right now are about $8,000 per home. That's something else that the legislature did a few years ago. You can only update your impact fees once every 4 years, and then you're limited to how much you can implement those impact fees. Excuse me. So we are due for an impact fee study, which it should be probably on our agenda here in late April, the last meeting of April. And we are looking to increase those impact fees. And you know, I haven't seen it. I don't know what it is, but I would say it, presumably my guess would be the lion's share of it would be in transportation.
Okay, if you have one other question, I think you spoke about this, the process to get it on the ballot, and at one point will it be decided how it's spent? I think you said that it's still in the baby stages, so.
Yes, ma'am.
And if it passes, it would not go into effect until 2027, right?
That is correct. And I think one thing that we didn't go over when I said that you know, 1 penny is equivalent to 25 million
Yes.
versus I think what we didn't get out there is what is 1 mil worth of ad valorem taxes. So 1 mil presently is worth about 15 million, just shy of that. So there's your comparison to what 1 mil of property taxes versus 1 penny of sales tax. And then if you think about 26 to 27% of that sales tax is generated by somebody that's a non-resident. So that's kind of like free money to us from other people that are not here year round.
Okay, any more questions? We're getting ready to sum it up. All right, Rebecca, thank you so much.
Well, thank you so
For
much
meeting
for
with us
inviting me. I
tonight.
appreciate it. We should do this more often.
Yes, we should.
All right. You
That's a
ladies
date.
have a great night, and whoever else is out there. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Great meeting.
Yeah.